Today is week 2 of our session. So this is for women between the ages of 23 and 27 who have chosen career instead of family. So they're on the path of career instead of choosing a family or maybe starting it later in life. This is more towards you're struggling with the idea of the decision and might not have a strong support system. So we are going to talk about positive self-talk today, and before we get started, last week was week 1. We just did introductions. We briefly mentioned how we feel about our decision to have a career rather than have a family and how that's impacting us. So some group rules: be respectful of others' decisions. Don't share information discussed in the group to anyone outside of the group. So that's confidentiality. Everyone can engage in conversation at their own pace, so if you don't want to participate, that's totally okay. If you have a lot to talk about that day, I'm going to allow you to talk, obviously, but you should also allow time for everyone to speak. Every member should also attend each session because these sessions build off of each other. So we talked about last week of our decision. This week we're going to focus more on the positive aspect, and then it's just going to keep building up from there, so attendance is super important. We're going to start off with a little icebreaker. So you're going to say your name and then something that you're proud of that you did today. It can be as big or small as you want. So I'll go first. My name is Emily, and something I'm proud of is I did go for a small walk today, and usually I don't work out on Wednesdays because it's such a busy day for me. So I'm proud of that. Does anyone want to start? Do you want me to? Yeah.
I'll go. My name's Jenny, and I took the time out today to go get my hair cut and do my little 10-minute tan session that I haven't utilized. So some time to myself.
Anyone else?
Sure.
Sorry.
My name's Rowan, and I, let's see, what am I proud of?
Anything small, anything big?
I took some extra time to play with my cat, and that was my self-care.
I love that. Yeah. Self-care is super important. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay. My name is Alexa, and I'm proud that I got up this morning and I was really productive and I got things done.
Love it. Love being productive.
My name is Rachel, and I am proud that I found the courage to tell a very intimidating psychiatrist on things that I did not think my client was appropriate for discharge. I got shot down, but I did it anyway.
Congrats for being able to do that. Sometimes it's super hard for me to do that, so congratulations on that. Anybody else do it?
My name is Ingrid, and I cleaned windows today.
I love it. Spring cleaning. Solid.
Hi, my name's Amanda, and one thing I did today that I'm proud of is waking up when my alarm went off instead of hitting snooze multiple times.
Yeah, something I didn't do this morning. 7 4 to 5 snooze. Not for me.
My name is Brittany, and I'm proud that I almost made it through my water bottle of water today.
I love it. Water, super important. Gotta stay hydrated.
My name is Mallory, and I'm proud of the fact that I wore something out of the house that I wasn't sure if I should wear, and I did it anyways.
Look at that. You're strong and capable.
Yeah.
I love it. Next.
My name's Morgan, and I like Mallory's outfit. I'm proud of her for wearing that. And I am proud that I really connected with a client today.
Congrats. That's super important. Probably really big for you.
My name's Lexi, and I'm proud that I went to the gym today.
Love that.
My name is Kelly, and I am proud that I have, so my boyfriend and my child went down to South Carolina to visit his family, and I'm proud that I was able to be kind and let that happen without being a control freak.
Good job. Good job. I love it.
I'm Jade, and I'm proud that I got a chance to write in my journal today and light a new candle.
Aw, little self-care.
Yeah.
Good.
My name is Trish, and I'm proud that I was working with this young man who's on the spectrum, and I wasn't really sure if I was making a connection with him, and when he was walking by, he put his hand on my shoulder and kind of stood there and just sort of looked around for a while, and then put his head on mine and then walked away.
Aw, yay. That's cute. Love that.
I'm Dr. Bobeski, and I'm proud that I finally collected all of the items that I want for a gallery wall.
Ooh. Love it.
I'm Tessa, and I'm proud that I cleaned my living room today.
Yeah. It's a big one for me. So this was really great. I'm glad everyone came up with something that they're proud of, whether it's big, it's small. You should always focus on the little things. So just congratulate yourself for doing that. That was super awesome. So we're going to do a little discussion before we get into more information based. So positive self-talk. What is positive self-talk? Now I have a couple ideas that I can share once everyone has a chance to discuss. Does anyone want to take it and answer the question?
I think positive self-talk is something that feeds your brain healthy messages, something that's empowering to you, something that makes you feel more positive about yourself and gives you more of a positive outlook.
Yep, perfect. Well said. Anybody else have a comment on it? Yep.
So like for me, I know that if I try to be like overly positive while talking to myself, I don't really buy into it. So I feel like it's more like forgiving the mistakes that I make rather than telling myself positive things. Like, okay, I'll be like, you messed up. At the end of the world, no, and kind of giving myself permission to forgive myself.
Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
I have a hard time with positive self-talk, so I have like stickies in the most prevalent places that I visit, often in my house. And it's just a reminder, like every time I walk by one, I read it because I'm not necessarily going to talk positively to myself if I don't set myself up for that. So that's what it means to me.
That's a really good idea. Doing sticky notes around there. You see, like, you get up in the morning, go to the bathroom, and there's a sticky note everywhere that says something. That's really good.
Piggyback off of that, I have a label maker and I printed out "You Are Beautiful" and I put it in my body length mirror. So yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, I used to have one that said "Your body is beautiful," and then it would be right on my mirror. So I love that idea. Perfect. Anybody else?
I kind of see it as like counteracting the negative self-talk. So when I say something negative to myself, I'm like, but. And then I'll try to find a way to make it less terrible or add in some sort of positive.
Yep.
Acceptance, just acceptance of circumstances and experiences that I may not like, that you may accept them.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, positive self-talk has always been really, really difficult until recently. I'd say when I got out of college, I realized how important it is to have positive self-talk. If you constantly put yourself down, and you're just going to have that outlook on life rather than being positive, and at least it's one thing that you're saying positive about yourself each day, that can really change your mindset and redirect you. So when we're talking about careers and being in the workplace and you feel overwhelmed or not on the right path that society says you should be, so you're 27 and you're like, well, I have a husband and I should be having a family, but I don't want a family. So just think of the positives end of that. You maybe could be easier to travel or spend time with your husband, significant other, whoever it might be. So definitely redirecting your mindset is very important. So the other question is, what does positive self-talk look like to you? So that can be in any form. You guys mentioned the sticky notes. That's a really great idea. I used to do that idea. I more have like a list on my phone of like positive things I can say about myself, and if I ever feel like low and down, I would pull that up and then just read it. Does anyone else have any ideas of what positive self-talk looks like to you?
Well, I think something that helps me too sometimes, because having that conversation can be hard, or you can might be hard to, I guess, find compliments or the motivational talk. And something that I recommend to a lot of the kids that I work with is even a positive photo. So to keep a picture, of a family member or a pet or something that just kind of lightens your mood and reminds you why you have your goals, or we're all here because we're career oriented. So if we're career oriented because we want to travel, or we want the nice house or whatever. So having that picture to remind you your whys, I guess was always helpful for me.
Yeah, I really like that. And you can take it with you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
I listen to a lot of podcasts, which I think is really helpful because I love to walk too. So
Yeah.
I listen and walk.
That can
and
also be
listen.
like a form of like doing something positive for yourself.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Anybody else? Any last comments? Alright. So some basic information. So what is self-talk? Self-talk is the inner voice inside your head that typically can be either negative or positive or internal narrative that you have about yourself. So a thing that I kind of remind myself of like what is self-talk and how to stay positive rather than negative is, would you say what you say to yourself to your best friend? And I think that has really changed my outlook of positiveness and being nice to myself, because when I am in a career path and it's typically, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, but I know what's best for myself and I think I need to have that positive aspect. So it also influences the way you view yourself and how you can view others. So Sigmund Freud said that it's a mix of the unconscious and conscious beliefs and biases that we have about ourselves. Positive self-talk is showing yourself compassion and self-love that can be in any form you want it to be in. Understanding who you are and the struggles you have endured. So definitely pointing out what you've been through and remind yourself that it's important that you went through this struggle or you're struggling right now because it will make you stronger and grow as an individual. Some examples of positive self-talk are, I am capable and strong, I can do this, I can't control what others think, say, or do, I can only control me, I can learn from the situation and grow as a person, even though it wasn't the outcome I hoped for, I learned a lot about myself. So this can go off with societal pressures and guiltiness, which we brought up in next week's session. Definitely focusing on yourself and just know that you can't control what other people say about you. You can only control yourself. So that goes with your actions and your mind. And affirmations, positive statements that are related to yourself that can help you overcome negative self-talk. So negative self-talk is putting yourself down or trying to redirect the mindset and focus on positive. Some basic affirmations are, I am confident, today will be a good day. I use that one a lot just to like remind myself, Monday morning, today's going to be a good day. I love myself, I am capable, I believe in myself. There's also, I am doing my best, I choose to be happy and to love myself today. I am worthy, I am talented and intelligent. My thoughts become my reality. I love myself, I am proud of myself. I'm becoming more confident every day. I believe in myself. I am grateful for all that I have. So I do have a small activity for us to do. I'm going to pass around just a little sheet of paper, and we're just going to take one side, and you're going to write down one or two or three things, whatever you feel comfortable. If you're going to come up with one, definitely do one. If you have a bunch, go for it. So you're going to write, what would your closest friends or family say about you? I do have an example. So I said, my closest family and friends might say that I am kind, I am hardworking, I can accomplish anything I set my mind to. Okay. That was just really difficult to pass things out. Yeah. This might be really tricky. So just try your best now. Just remember this is something somebody would say about you.
Just the good stuff.
That was my question.
Yeah, definitely focusing
Are we
on
just talking about the
positive.
good? That could add a whole
Don't ask my friend.
If you can't come up with anything, that's totally okay. Don't write anything. And we will discuss a little bit about it to be prepared to speak if you would like.
You were like so excited.
I love when we get to use markers.
I know.
I'll get my survey comes in.
Oh, I like beach. I was gonna use my pen, but thank you.
Just take a couple moments, think about it. This could be a word, sentence, something that they actually said to you at some point. I just use I am and I statements. So you do whatever you like.
My yellow is so bright, it's like blinding.
I'll give you like another minute. Alrighty. So the point of this was trying to think of something other people would say about you, so it should have been a little easier, coming from an outside source almost. You're more than likely to take it and internalize it rather than coming from yourself. If someone said something about you that was nice and positive or complimented you anymore. Does anybody feel comfortable sharing what they wrote?
I'll share. I came up with 3, but I'll just share one.
Yeah, of course.
I think the biggest thing that people tell me is that I'm determined and devoted to everything that I do. Like, no matter what the task, I put everything into it.
I love that.
But that can also be like a good and a bad thing for me sometimes, but I'm like working to find the balance.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
One thing a friend of mine said to me that really resonated and I think about sometimes is she said I'm a tree who gives away all of her leaves.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
The way she said it. I like that.
So I'm caring and I'm generous.
Yep.
I don't think I give away all of them.
You leave a little for yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. Anybody else care to share? Yeah.
My family always tells me I'm
part, but I also think that can be a negative sometimes because I get oversensitive.
Yep.
And take things apart too much. So.
Yeah.
My friends always tell me that I'm honest. It's one of those things that could be looked at as a negative as well. But I find it as a positive because I ground myself in honesty and really that's kind of how I live my life. It may be hard to hear sometimes the truth, and I think that sometimes that's why people shy away from it. But I believe being a good friend means being honest. So if it hurts, it hurts, but maybe it'll give you something to think about.
Personally, I value honesty. I mean, if you're my friend and you're telling me straight up how it is, that comes a long way. Then I might not like it in the long run of what you said, but at least you were honest. So definitely that's positive. Anybody else care to share?
So a friend told me once that even though I'm really busy and a good multitasker, that I make it look easy, and I felt flattered.
Yeah, got it under control. I see. Yeah, cool. Anybody else? So, like I said, I kind of just thought of like what my parents would say about me, and they've always told me that I can accomplish anything I set my mind to. And I kind of really like to internalize that because it is something that my parents said, and that just makes me so happy and proud because I'm making them proud. So that's something I would like to continue to remind myself every day, whether I write it down or I just remember it. Sometimes it's hard to remember things. So I can just write on a sticky note and say that every morning to definitely get out of the negative mindset. And especially going back to like career and work, if I know I can set my mind something and accomplish that goal, that just goes a long way and say I can do whatever I want, and if I want to have a really strong career before I start a family, rather than giving my career up for the family, then I'm going to do that. So the point of this entire thing was just to remind yourself that other people have positive outlooks on you, whether you see that or not. Most of us will focus on the negative. It's bound to happen. I focus on the negative a lot, and just redirecting and trying to remind yourself that there are positives. It is uncomfortable and difficult to find positive things about yourself. So if I told you to write 3 things that are negative about yourself, I know everyone could have done it. I could have done it. I would have been like, I don't like this, I don't like that. But it's definitely hard to remind yourself that I do have positive qualities. And a lot of us are talking about how it can go both ways, both negative and positive. But definitely focus on the positive aspect of what people are telling you. So I do have a little questions that bounce off of that. So what are your thoughts on positive self-talk, and would it be difficult for you to complete affirmations every day? You can do both questions. You can answer either or. It's up to you. Does anybody want to take this before I personally answer?
So I think that exercise was really good because I feel like if I were to sit there and think the positive things myself, I would have nothing. But it was really easy for me to go, oh, this person said this, that person said that.
Yep.
And I feel like if I were to just write a list of all the positive things people have said about me and say that to myself to kind of affirm that, I feel like it would be easier because it's coming from an outside source and I don't have to struggle. So I feel like focusing on, maybe I just focus on the negative things about myself, but focusing on the positive things that other people have said can help shape my positive outcome, essentially.
Yeah, it sticks with you a little bit more because someone else said it, rather than like, oh, I'm lying to myself. I said this, like, I'm so great at this, but I really am lying. You kind of feel like, oh, if someone said it, I'm going to remember it. Yeah.
So I attended another support group once, and we made like these rainmaker things, and we put our affirmations inside of them. So now that I have something like physical to feel and touch, I wouldn't say 7 days a week, but maybe 5 out of 7. I do try to look at that and complete my affirmations. It just helps me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, even if it's not every day, if it's just, once a week I'm doing this, or every couple of weeks I'm reminding myself. As long as you're doing something small, that can really change everything and impact the slightest way.
I think I really struggle with self-talk, positive or negative, because I'm so focused on what everybody else is like saying about me or thinking about me, and I'm like always thinking about how I could do for others. So I like struggle to reflect back on myself and be like, because I tend to like look at somebody else and be like, oh, I like that about her, and then look at it on me and I don't like it on me kind of thing. And then it's like, okay, so I have to like rethink, well, what do I like about myself instead?
Yeah, definitely. I can see, especially like when you viewing like anything on social media and you're like, oh, this would look great on me, and then you put it on, you're like, oh no, because it's definitely meant for that other person. But you honestly can do whatever you want. Like if you start building confidence and just know that you're capable of pretty much anything everyone else is, that it'll just create so much of a better positive influence on your life. Yeah, get started.
I have a hard time with positive self-talk. I think that in the past few years I've gotten better at accepting myself and then being able to have more positive self-talk. And I think that, like, when I recognize that if I looked at myself as somebody's daughter, somebody's significant other, somebody's friend, somebody's mom, and I really thought about myself as those roles, that helped me with my own self-confidence or my own self-love, which also allowed me to have more positive self-talk about myself. Because if I wouldn't say it to my daughter, or if I wouldn't say it to somebody I wanted to be a role model to, or if I wouldn't say it to my mom or to my significant other, then I probably shouldn't be saying it to myself.
Exactly. I mean, I listened to a song yesterday, and one of like the lyrics part summed up was like, if you wouldn't say it to somebody else, why would you say it to yourself?
Yeah.
And that really hit me, and I was like, it's so right. I mean, I have such negative self-talk. I just become more positive, and just a little bit could change everything. Anybody else?
I think what you want, you give away. So
Definitely.
I feel like if I'm giving away positive information to all of my friends, saying, fabulous things about them, I get that back from them.
I love that.
And it's not like a manipulative thing.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing, I should say.
I also talk about positive self-talk too in my workplace, and when I brought it home to my significant other, we sort of made fun of it a little bit, and like as a joke, we started being like, what's one thing you did today that you were proud of? And now we look forward to that.
Yeah.
And
It started off as a
what's one
joke.
thing you did today that you're proud of? And then he'd ask me, and we're like, heck yeah.
Oh,
So that's a newer thing.
definitely continue to do that.
Yeah, so I just think the more you practice and the more you do it, the easier it is, and the more you believe in it.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a weird relationship with positive self-talk. I'm super supportive of all my friends no matter what they're doing. I try to be there for all of them. I really celebrate everything they can do, and I tell them they can do more. And I'm really supportive. And then when it comes to me, it's a complete double-edged sword where, and they call me out on it all the time, where just basically I give myself no room for error. That if I make one single mistake, I'm like, nope, I'm a failure, this is a sign of things to come, this is a pattern, blah, blah, blah. But then when they make mistakes, I'm like, no, it's okay, you're only human, like, it's all right, you can do better.
Yeah.
And it's just like, my significant other has started actually, like, yelling at me when I do that. She'll literally just stop the conversation and be like, no, stop that. I'm like, all right, you're right. And it kind of helps, but it's, like, still there.
So sorry, then you feel better.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think what you can also maybe do is look at yourself as one of your friends. So what you say to them, say to yourself. Rather than viewing yourself as your own, view yourself as somebody else. Yes, Jake?
I feel like positive self-talk kind of like saved me. Like I grew up and I wasn't like a big fan of like my looks and like body image and stuff. And I feel like years have gone by and I just like can't remember like the last time I felt like I just can't remember or can't imagine what it would be like to be in that headspace again.
It's amazing that you just like changed that.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think, especially as I get older, I think being able, kind of like what Kelly said, being able to realize nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And like that new saying, I feel like I hear it all the time, but to be perfectly imperfect, like, is more, I think, the grounds that helps me have any positive self-talk, because it's more a sense of being like, hey, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
And so if you can't kill yourself with kindness or even come up with a super positive affirmation to at least be able to say, yep, I screwed up again, and kind of be able to laugh at yourself because knowing that every human being messes up and everybody's, fallible. So, and that's okay.
Well said. Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with acceptance and like really accepting any issues that you're experiencing. Just taking a step back and saying this is okay. Because in the moment you want to react and be like, oh, why did I do that? I'm so stupid. It's just accepting that, we make mistakes and it's okay, and to just focus on, what we did do right.
Bounce off of that, accepting the decisions that you choose. Your choice is to have an established career before starting a family. That's your decision. Accept that, believe that's true. Turn that into a positive rather than what society views as a negative.
I read online that when children are young, you should start by saying you should be proud of yourself instead of I'm proud of you, so they become like intrinsically motivated instead of motivated by impressing other people. So I know it's too late for me to
In the future.
do that, but I tell myself when I accomplish something that I'm proud of myself and I should be.
Yeah, I really like that. That might be hard for some people to do. Sometimes I'm not. I look for others to say they're proud of me. I'm like, oh, like I did this today, and I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of you. It's like, am I proud of myself? Anybody else? Yeah.
So I feel like negative self-talk has served me really well in my life because it's kept me motivated and driven to do better. So how can positive self-talk, is it going to hinder my growth?
It kind of depends on how you take it. So negative self-talk, use that as motivation. But you could also use positive self-talk as motivation. So you motivate others to be better. You should be motivating yourself if it fits you. So focus on, instead of always dwelling on the negative, so I did this wrong, I'm going to do this better. So that motivation in a way is positive self-talk. If you want to motivate to be better. So instead of always pointing out the negatives, take a step back and limit that, and then point out more of the positive aspects of that.
Yeah, it's hard.
Oh yeah, I always point out the negative things I do, and I'm like, I can just do this so much better. I got a low grade on this. I know I can do better. I'm just going to do so much more and try for the next time. So that trying is, I'm capable of trying. So I'm capable of doing more. I'm a hard worker. So that. Does anyone want to bounce off of that?
I'm just thinking about what I was talking earlier with I did this wrong, but, so, if you're looking at ways you can improve, that's a motivating factor, but also, you are motivating yourself by the positive things that you're saying, oh, I can still say I did things that I need to work on, but the positive things are what keeps me going.
Very well said.
I feel like this would be really hard for people that didn't grow up hearing positive things from their parents or their peers. Personally, I'm pretty fortunate, but I do know of some people that didn't grow up in, positive, healthy environments, and also do have really low self-image and self-esteem.
Yeah. So definitely, just writing at least one thing down. If it's the smallest thing, that's at least better than nothing. You're still putting yourself up for improvement and growth.
That's true.
I think I would qualify myself as one of those people. It's not like I grew up in a house where they always pointed out what was wrong, but I grew up with a dad who had really high expectations for me, and if I didn't meet those high expectations, it kind of was like, well, you could have done better than that.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I put a lot of pressure on myself, is to meet those high expectations, and I set really high expectations for myself because of it. So I feel like that's kind of what hinders me to be so positive. I need to work on thinking about what I did well, even if it wasn't how I wanted it to be.
Being able to say, I am enough.
Yeah.
I don't always need to be doing better or more.
Yeah,
perfect.
and I'm such a type A perfectionist, so everything I do has to be perfect.
What does enough even mean?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Yeah.
Allowing yourself to make mistakes to grow.
Yeah.
Find positive in that. Thank you for sharing that story.
To kind of go off of Amanda, similar idea of having 5 siblings, and my oldest sibling step sibling was, you know, perfect, got 4.0, at everything, and just like makes, you know, so much money. And then my full sibling is the oldest of mine, is like the same boat. And the two in between just struggled with life in general. And then me being the youngest in my family was saying, like, you can't be like those two, you have to be like the oldest, you know. You have to follow in those footsteps, and your whole life being like, okay, if you mess up, you're gonna end up like the other two and not, you know, the first two. So just try to be enough for yourself and not looking up to someone else and trying to be in someone else's footsteps like your whole life.
I was gonna say that I live by the book before agreements, and one of the agreements is always do your best, and it explains like if you do too much, you're gonna stress yourself out, and if you do too little, you're gonna stress yourself out. So always find like the middle balance of doing your best, your personal best.
Yeah, I like that. Somebody else want to say that?
So I was just thinking like this morning, I was having one of those days where I just felt like I needed to like really be in control. So I just said to myself, like, you can let go, like you don't have to be in control of everything. And that like it will just like let things fall into place, and that just really helped me, and I felt like that was the positive self-talk. Just to be able, and I think sometimes too, like some people are spiritual and some people aren't, and it doesn't have to be spiritual, but I do think that there can be a spiritual element to positive self-talk too, like just having faith that like sometimes when you let certain things go, like it's gonna be alright, you know what I mean?
Definitely apply it to you with that. So your spirituality is something that definitely sits well with you. Apply that, and then that will balance everything.
I have a comment too, like with Dr. Bogoski when she was saying about like negative self-talk and how it disturbed her. I think maybe in a way like it's not necessarily completely unhealthy to have some negative self-talk. I think it's just about how negative are you all the time? Are you able to challenge yourself and be like positive? And also too, like, I mean, I don't know, like, is it something that when you're talking negative to yourself, like, is it negative or is it like you trying to push yourself more? Like, in what ways, like, is your
understanding how negative is negative. Are you like constantly putting yourself down as an individual? Like, oh, I hate my body. I'm like not gonna eat this or do that. Like, I struggled in college with that aspect of definitely like you're fine. I'm really going to eat. You're fine. And I'm like, well, that's just hurting myself. So redirecting of like, no, like I can eat that. That's totally okay. And just like taking care of myself and then, you know, this is the body you have. Like your mom gave you all of this for a reason. Like, it's just you can't change anything.
I think there's an element to it of being able to like forgive yourself and move on too, because I think sometimes when we are negative, when we have a lot of negative self-talk, and then we get on this like positive self-talk thing, it's almost like we have to be careful to be able to forgive ourselves, to be able to accept ourselves, to be able to understand like where we are and how we can move forward.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in an immigrant family, and so humbleness was a big deal. And so we didn't do a lot of positive self-talk because that was kind of the negative thing. It was prideful. So I've had to learn how to differentiate from just being holistic to myself and being prideful or comparing myself to someone else.
Yeah, knowing the difference. Any other comments? Those are great. Thank you all for sharing. So for a little bit of homework, I would like you can write it on the paper I gave you. Obviously, this is completed for the following week. So I would love if you could write down 2 examples of positive self-talk that you can incorporate into your everyday life. This might be very difficult, and that is kind of the whole point of it. I really would love if you could do 2. If you can, that's totally okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So you could either do the affirmations that we discussed a little bit. Pick 2 out that you could see yourself using either every day or at least once before we meet again. So you can even Google positive affirmations and write those out and say those. You could use the examples here, or you could say what people wrote about you or said about you as one of your own. So if you can't come up with any, whatever you wrote that someone says about you, you could say those. I do have some examples. So positive affirmations I could say either once a day, twice a day, or whatever before we meet, is I have confidence in myself and I am strong and capable. So write those down, bring those to the next session, and we'll discuss that, and then we'll talk about societal pressure and guiltiness surrounding that. So this was a very good session. Thank you all for sharing. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, attendance is super important, so be sure to attend next meeting around the same time. Thank you.
Okay, let's give Emily some feedback. Let's start with the positives.